Chapter 10? Rothians slash Nopon again, since Tora hops back into this chapter. I brought Tora back into this chapter specifically because Janix's meeting with him was so brief in the first chapter. So I want to get a little more out of the two characters, and also give Janix a bit more background on Mia and a bit more background on the other characters in general. I don't know, Lynn. I just got done watching a round of Quiplash, and one of the prompts was food that tastes worse with chocolate. But may as well let her dream. Yeah, I mean, if anything, the game shows that she really likes chocolate and sweets just in general. Something I did notice is that the only Xenos you see sitting at tables in LA, excluding the man on ship, as I can kind of see some Orpheans or Rothians sitting down on one of the benches, not sure, are Man on and Nopon. I think it's because those are the only two races you are guaranteed to have in NLA by playing the main story alone. The thought only just occurred to me after reading about Xenos and humans enjoying food, and I was thinking of a male tree clan prone sitting down at a table 3 to 4 feet lower on him on a chair that he can barely fit in. Could be wrong though, as I want to say I've seen a female tree clan prone seated somewhere in LA. It's funny because after reading this I went to play, and there's Rothians and a female prone sitting on the Manon ship. I took some pictures of them for the 12 Days of Xenoblade, or at least for the Rothians. I didn't for the prone. I took a standing prone instead. There are Manon sitting everywhere. Nopon sit, I guess. They really just stand on stuff because they, you know. As for male prone, you're probably right. I don't know if there's male prone sitting anywhere. Are there? I'm imagining the father of the prone woman who goes off with the dude, the human dude. Was he sitting down? I feel like he was, and her actual husband, the actual guy she was supposed to be married to, was standing next to him flexing or something like that. I could be wrong, but otherwise, yeah. And Orpheans, there are definitely sitting Orpheans around. I just can't remember which one specific, but I'm pretty sure you can find them on the Manon ship. It's hard to remember all that. So you took the soldier route too, huh? I'm not sure I've met anyone who went the ambassador route if you chose not to train Gulata. The thing is though, both outcomes could work in this case. It's talking about Cruz being a model blade or finding a different calling and leaving a past behind. Yeah, so I didn't know that, like when I was talking to her on top of Blade Tower doing the quest, and she said that and I had the option to say there's another way to live. I'm like, does that lead to a different route? And I stuck to the soldier one though because that's what Janix would do, and I found out later on the wiki that is a different route, that she instead becomes like an emissary sort of, I think, between humans and Rothians, which I think is also a pretty cool thing, and I think there could have been a lot for Janix and her to talk about it that way too. But I also think bonding over their difficulties and stuff as being soldiers in the past and wanting to grow stronger also works just as well. I never got the impression that Tobias outright hates you after beating down Vynamo the Bellower. Sure, he was salty because he kept one-upping his plans to gather funding for the Galactic Frontier Nav, though it's not like credits are a precious or shared resource in limited quantities. But whenever I talked to him afterwards, I always had the image of begrudging respect coming from him, especially when you ask him about Caldros and he talks about the Mount Ngondo Springs and says he's confident that you of all blades can make such a dangerous trek. So many bad memories of climbing that stupid mount after Chapter 3. Freaking tornado jackals. Never felt so relieved to plant that probe and finding the right spot to jump from. Also makes a good spot to find the Beast Shield Utopia if you can manage to jump down. Yeah, you're right. I didn't really write Tobias as being the outward hater. The thing is that's Gulata's take on the events. She was standing behind Cruz, and Cruz was talking to Tobias. And she read in Tobias's body language that, yeah, obviously there was a little bit of myth there, but because she didn't actually hear what they were talking about, she didn't really miss it out. And Cruz just gave her the long and short of it and told her, yeah, I had problems with that guy in the past. And so she just assumed, I think, is the best way to say it. But I think there could have been a better option to choose someone who doesn't like Cross as a character, but I couldn't think of one at the time. I actually came up with one a few days ago. That would be someone that would have been a better example, but now I actually can't remember who it was. I got nothing. Not anyone that openly hates you, anyway. At least I don't think so. I guess Fortune. But, yeah, like I said, in this canon, Fortune's dead. Nope, got none. Anyway, it's not written as such, but I just imagine Janix pausing and speaking a few words or so as she catches her breath before taking another bite. God, I love curry. Yes, she was absolutely doing that. I wasn't sure how to represent it, but that's exactly what she was doing at one point in the story. Just being like, Ram, then saying something, I, Ron, love this, you know, just for that latter part of the conversation between her and Gulata. Seeing Gulata and Nizine try to compete for Janix's time, pretty good stuff. Didn't think I see them get so informal. Yeah, because like I always really like the fact I was thinking, should I have them get informal? I don't think Rothians do that. But at the same time, Rothians, they're supposed to be raised as combat warriors throughout their entire life, and that's what they believe and all that kind of shit. And so it's like, but yet we have two Rothians here who went about doing it differently in a way, like at least that Gulata can find a different way of life, and Nizine chooses to become a chef. And so it's like, and there's all sorts of other Rothians who do different things, like the one who studies frontier nav and poses positions probes around the place and struggles to learn about Moranium and that kind of stuff. So I'm not at all surprised that. So I thought it would make sense for them to be a little excited, because in Gulata's case she wants to train, and in Nizine's case he wants to know what it's like to cook with someone. So it was really fun writing that, though, them competing for her attention. Seeing who Mom likes best. That always struck me as odd that the Nopon had comm devices that also managed to access Frontier Nav too, or so it seems. Never explained much, like many a thing on Mira. Something about this planet. Yeah. Look at Janix still treating this meet and greet like it's a mission. This is a great chapter to read, and your love for Rothians never fails to shine through in these kinds of stories. I do have one question though. Neither Gulata or Janix left any credits on the table after the meal, so who's footing the bill? Turns to off-screen Gwen. You know, I didn't really think about that at all. But you know, for the comedic thing, sure, Gwen has to pay. Maybe later down the day, Janix meets up with Gwen and just like taps his chest, and then he like goes to carry a paper, and she walks away. He looks at it, and it's the bill, and then he turns around, she's gone. And I totally think something like that happening would be pretty awesome. But yeah, but the thing is, I didn't think about it at all to have them pay. I mean, once again, I guess it's those things you can assume that they do because they're not terrible people. Yeah, I definitely should have had them pay, or one of them pay. Maybe have a conversation about paying, you know, more little characterization there, because of all the things this chapter did, which I realized, which is why Janix brings it up towards the end, is that she didn't really learn about Rothians. She learned about Nizine and Gulata as people, but not about Rothians, and so she's just kind of kicking herself for that, and I did too, because I didn't put enough of that in there. Also, I laid the seeds for her eventually meeting Gabuid, showing some interest in her later down the line, so I thought that was fun. I would have put more in there, but I wasn't sure if I needed much more, because we get a lot of Gabuid and Scales and Love, so I think that's good enough. And finally, Chapter 11, Elma. Yeah, the idea for this chapter came out pretty fun. No, I didn't see this one coming. I suppose I should have, considering the fact that Ellen, Celica, and Rock got their own chapters, but I thought that Elma had long since abandoned her mim from what I inferred from previous fics. I was kind of expecting a reflection recap summary of the fic, though, if that counts. Which there was a little summary, I think, at the start of this chapter. I actually got a review, and I think it was Scales and Love, where someone was asking. It was an anonymous review. I'll probably read it when I finish chapter 12 next year sometime. Elma, and I don't know how to say if she's in her mim or not, because it's like I would have to take aside dialogue for it, and it's just very difficult to have to change it up. Like sometimes I do little things, like in chapter 11, Elma was not in her mim, because there's that point where Janix tells her to marry Cruz, and Elma, I wrote that her pale face, her face goes red, or at least as red as her pale face could go. And you know Elma doesn't have a pale face, just tan skin. But her real face, her true form, is white, it's pale, you know. So in that chapter specifically, she was in her true form, as was she in the chapter where Janix kind of gets a little carried away and like a little taken off guard, and she's like, "You've seen me like this before," and then she's like, "Yeah, I just occasionally." So the way I see it is there's two reasons. One reason is incredibly vain, and the other one's a bit more obvious. So the first reason as to why I keep Elma in her mim more often than not is because I feel it's more effective to fight in her mim, since it's artificial, you know, and it can be repaired and all that kind of stuff. I just think like she could accomplish more in this robot body that has limits that are possibly stronger than her xenoform body, you know, than a flesh and blood body. As for Elle and Celica being in their flesh and blood bodies when they fight, I don't know. But that's one of the main reasons why she's always going back into her Mim in my stories, and that's why in chapter 12 she will be in her Mim for the mission. The other reason, the very vain reason why I keep her in her Mim more than I do, is that I actually think she looks more attractive in her Mim. So, you know, it's just a personal opinion. I think she's beautiful as the xenoform that she is. I think both her forms are very beautiful, but I think she just looks much more attractive in her Mim, so I keep her in that. The Mim's what I fell in love with first. That's the face of Elma that you're presented with for a majority of the game. So I guess I got really attached to it. I did get really attached to it. So, that's kind of my first love, so I always stick to her. It's like, if you read Stay Sharp, that's why at the end she's back in her Mim. And I even had that conversation with her talking to Cruz, because the last chapter, Stay Sharp, was iffy because I wanted the ending to be with Elma in her Mim, but I was like, I need to bring this up. I need to bring up why she's in her Mim after revealing her true form at the end of the story. So I had that dialogue between Cruz and Elma, where she asks, "Is it odd that I'm in my Mim again?" And to which he responds, "I don't think so. You have used it for so long. I think it's hard enough to just cut it out of your life completely." You know. And then they get really intimate, but you know, that doesn't matter. But yeah, that's the long answer for a very short statement. But I just kind of wanted to give that because it is a really annoying thing for me to write, or at least for me not to write, and the other viewer pointed it out that I don't ever really specify if she's in her Mim or not. Occasionally, but beyond that, you just kind of have to guess and assume. I don't know what to do. Like, should I just open every single chapter in my AN with being like Elma status, Mimiasome, Elma status true form, so that you know in that chapter specifically? Because I want you to know, because I think it's kind of relevant. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to drag, I don't know. Would it be annoying every single chapter to have to describe some physical form of Elma to get it across? Like, I did it only like once, was specifying that her face was pale, and then with Janix being surprised that she was in her true form. But how would I feel doing that every chapter at least once? I don't know. It's a really, really tricky situation. So I guess that's why I've read some people just keep her in her true form the whole time, or in her Mim the whole time, so they don't have to worry about flip-flopping. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's difficult. Anyway. What was I? Oh yeah, I wonder if as time went on, Janix saw back to how Elma hid so much and lied, and yet everyone easily forgave her, whereas every time Janix said that she was okay and hid her insecurities, people would take that as a sign to continue pressing her to see if she's really fine. Janix is a really, like, despite everything, she's really fragile, and as the recent chapters have shown, and you and Cormac had the same reaction to Janix just exploding and telling everyone to shut the fuck up and leave her alone. It bugs her. It really bugs her. But yeah, I wrote that scene specifically because there was another fic I wanted to write that I don't know if I'm going to. But that scene, I don't know if you actually caught it, but you probably did, because you catch every fucking thing. Which is great, it's not a bad thing at all. Where Elma is telling Janix about having to lie to everybody, because there's no way she could know this. And she's like, we found something, and I knew what it was, but I shouldn't be able to know what it was, so I lied to Cruz about it. And what she was talking about was the Vita, when they found it in the in Noctilum, in the Deadman's Gulch. And I know it's probably a point of contention as to whether she actually knew what it was, but if you watch that chapter again when she sees it, it's a lot of internal monologue of her realizing something about it that's familiar. She knows what it is to some extent. And if you ask her, do you know what this is? She turns to you and is like, I have no idea what this is. And I'm like, did you just lie to me? I felt hurt when she said that, like, because after I played the game the first time, I actually asked her if she was okay. But when I finished the game and she talked to Luxar and she's like, that thing you're in, you know, the Vita, it's missing something, isn't it? I realized, like, so she knew what it was back then. So I asked her straight up with Janix if she knew what it was, and then she just looks at me and lies right to my face and says that she has no idea what it is. That hurts, yo. It really does. So that's why I felt like bringing it up for this this chapter, that moment. And Janix has her own problems with Elma that I feel like it's one of those things where I keep things vague or implied way too long. Like, it's because there's always one specific moment where I want the reveal to happen, and in this case, Janix's unfondness of Elma. It's finally going to be revealed super soon, so I'll be happy about that, but, yeah. she'll let her have it, which, you know, we'll see about that. Would Elma even need to ask Irina about the 3rd Division's frantic defense of the White Whale? From the ending of Janix seems to hint Elma knows plenty about what happened to Janix's comrades. Perhaps she was just fact-checking or fabricating a story for Janix? So I reread the chapter, and I think what you're trying to point out is there's a moment where Elma and Janix are talking, but I guess the descriptors are kind of in a reverse order, or one's missing. So I think you might have thought that Janix or Elma said something that the other one actually did. But Elma 100% knows what happened to the 3rd Soldier Unit / the 6th Skell Division. She knows what happened to them. What was being talked about in the debriefing was Janix was saying that Irina left out the fact that Elma was a Xeno in the debriefing. She didn't say that. She just said that someone special is the reason why they're all still there. Yeah, I think that was the only time they mentioned the debriefing and they talked about it. They never really brought up Janix's team defending the White Whale, at least I don't think so. Which, to be fair, Elma defended it too. Which when I found out about that, I felt pretty bad for making it sound like Janix's crew was like the one solely responsible for any sort of success when there was no success. The White Whale went down. But there'll be some talk about that once again when I get back to Skulls and Love. Seriously, where was all that thrilling, action-packed document filling in A Day in the Life? If I didn't know better, I'd have thought Van Damme dumped all that on Elma and Cruz. He probably did. He probably came to the barracks to eat, and then he sat down with all his paperwork. He started gabbing with Elma and Cruz about unrelated stuff, and then he like looked at his watch. He's like, "Shit!" and he left, and he took off and left all the paperwork there. And Elma and Cruz were like, and Elma's like, "I guess I got to do this now." And then Cruz, being the love-struck puppy that he is, feels like, "I'll help." And Q's Skulls and Love. This fic did not think it would go as deep as it did, but from the YouTube responses, sounds like no one did from the start. Yeah, I definitely didn't. This was a lot of fun to follow from start to finish, and there are more typos than usual? Sure, but it doesn't detract from the fact that I can really see how much you enjoyed yourself here. Perhaps due in part with the relative shortness of each chapter in comparison to that of Skulls and Love. I also think that, apart from my one nitpick on Mia, the way you write everyone, Xenos and all, and even the narration feel more natural here than they did in the previous semi-short multi-chapter fic training, or I guess you mean Stay Sharp, where some of the interactions felt interactions and reactions felt a bit stilted. Mayhaps that's just me, but I see it as an improvement nonetheless. Glad I followed this calm before the storm that will be Mission to its end. And you're right, I definitely think Stay Sharp was a lot more stilted. Like when I was writing Do I Know Me, I felt like that was super stilted because it was the first time I'd written anything in forever. And so like I think Do I Know Me got across what it needed to. Starfall and Elmira I think were better. And Stay Sharp, you know, because it was such a focused piece, I definitely think that I could have benefited it. But all things considered, it made Janix, Skulls and Love When You're On, and Hello Xenos much better. So that's good. Anyway, let me bring up that fic before I talk about chapter 12. The other fic I wanted to work on was about like, I think it was going to be called 20 Questions, even though there weren't going to be 20 questions in it. And it was Cruz and Elma post-game, and Cruz just realizing, hey, so did you know about the Vita and Dead Man's Gulch? And then he and Elma have a talk about it, and it gets a little emotional. She gets sad about lying. He tells her it's alright, and she's like, no, it's not, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then a few days later, and then the next chapter is a few days later, and she tells him about something else that she lied to him about, or something else that she left out. She tells him about her defending the White Whale in the original Ares model. She tells him about her partner who was there in the Tandem Skull. She tells him about Tandem Skull. She tells him about how the dude had thrown her back into the White Whale as he drifted off into space and disappeared. It was basically this chapter about Cruz and Elma bonding and learning about more of Elma's past. The issue is that the chapter would require a lot of headcanon space because we don't know that much about Elma. So, should I write that? I don't know. It'll probably be like 2 or 3 chapters. The thing is, besides her talking to him about her defending the White Whale and her talking to him about the Vita, I'm not sure what else I could have them talk about and bond over. What are things Elma lied about, you know, so to speak, throughout the course of the game. If I get enough things, maybe I'll write the fic. It's just more Cruz and Elma bonding moments. You know, just more stay sharp levels of implication. Anyway, so chapter 12 was called Hello Janix, and if you realize in chapter 11, there's when Janix is waiting in the room to meet Elma, who she doesn't know Elma. Elma says hello Janix, and Janix's response is to freak out and turn around, and she's like super scared in that moment. And it's not because someone snuck up on her. That's not why she reacted the way she did in chapter 11. It's because Elma said hello Janix. And this chapter explains why it is that frightens her so much. Or that frightened her so much. So after I read your review on chapter 11, I wasn't even sure if I should publish chapter 12. I was thinking, yeah, chapter 11 was a good way to end Scales and Love, you know. I mean, Hello Xenos, you know, with that scene where Janix sees herself and the other woman in place of Chris and Elma, and she remembers the relationship that she was in before in her past, and then she goes into a room and breaks down after everything, as she is prone to do. But there was one very important reason that I still needed to write chapter 12, and there's a reason that chapter 12 exists, and assuming you read it now, maybe you know why it is that I wrote chapter 12. Scales and Love, the opening chapter of Scales and Love, make no sense if Hello Xenos happens the way it does without chapter 12. Because Scales and Love opens up 2 weeks later, and Janix has been running herself ragged, doing missions alongside Irina and other people, Gwen, and she's just not been taking it slow. When she meets with Alexa in chapter 2, she tells her that she doesn't have a personal life and she doesn't spend time with anybody. If you read Hello Xenos first and then went over to Scales and Love, assuming chapter 11 was the ending, you'd be like, what happened? Why is she not cooking with Nizayan? Why is she not dancing with Thea? Why is she not talking to Slavi? Why this? Why this? Why is she not friends with her friends anymore? You know, chapter 11 was her telling Cruz how happy she was to meet all these people, and chapter 12 opened with her wanting to go out and talk to them and chill with them. She had a schedule and everything. So why is it that she doesn't talk with any of them or bring them up at all in Scales and Love? Because of chapter 12. So chapter 12 is her waking up and she's like, yay, I'm gonna go talk to all my friends, and then she goes out to talk to them, and the specters from her past come back and stop her. Tai, Alto, Sagis, Aaron, and Hideo Kumon. They all come back, and it's her brain's way of telling her, like, hey, you've kind of been not thinking about any of your terrible, horrible past for 2 days. How about you think about it now that you're by yourself and that you think you're happy? How about you realize that you're not, and that you can't actually live this way, and you have to give up and do what it is that they always wanted you to do. You know, you need to regress. You can't progress. And so that's what happens. She basically dumps all her friends and just enters in. And from the ending of Hello Janix, where she from Hello Xenos, where she runs out into Primordia, to the start of Scales and Love, where she comes back from Primordia 2 weeks later with Irina, is a perfect segue, I think. Because, like, it feels like she ran out and she's back and she's different. So that's the reason why chapter 12 exists, specifically because I needed a reason to explain why it is she's not cool with other people in Scales and Love, despite the fact that she was so cool with so many other people in Hello Xenos. That was the answer. And that's also the reason why I'm still wondering if I should change chapter 2 of Scales and Love, because if she is experiencing this problem with the people that she met back in Hello Xenos, then she would not have gone knowingly or unintentionally to Nizayan's curry shop with Alexa. She would have come up with an excuse like, maybe we could go somewhere else, or, well, actually, there was this other place that I wanted to try. Well, you wouldn't mind, right? So that's what I'm thinking of writing instead. Like, once again, I'm not sure, but there has to be a reason. Either that, or I have to write Nizayan and her trying to interact, and then I feel like her standing up and leaving quickly because Nizayan's there will take more fire away from the chapter from what her and Alexa are talking about. And Alexa's definitely not one to be like, hey, why'd you act... To not say, hey, why'd you act that way when you saw Nizayan? So that's the difficulty I have, and I'm still not sure if I should change chapter 2, but I definitely think I should, in some aspects, at least in regards to when they're at the curry shop. If anything, I definitely need to make it change it so that it's not her first time there, because it's not. But that's why the chapter exists, and that's why I felt it was necessary after everything. So hopefully you read it now, and hopefully I have a review of yours to read, I guess, and talk about in the next review video, whenever Scales in Love 12 comes out. Your guess is as good as mine when that's happening. So there we go. That's it. Hunky dory. We're done. So I'm actually going to stop here and record my timeline video so that I can give you the timeline of the events of Scales in Love, of the entire Cruz and Janix storyline. Discounting, of course, Starfall and Elmira, because they're not canon to it. They do, like, they happen in their own bubbles. Anyway, Hello Xenos was fun, and I'm really glad with what it transformed into. Like, just what it kind of gradually changed into by the end of it. It's just learning more about Janix is always cool. Janix, I think I've said this before, she's one of my favorite characters ever created. And so, I really love writing her, and I love using her. She, the Discord that I'm a part of loves her. I've had a bunch of people draw fan art for her. In batches. Of course, sometimes I asked for it, but there have been times where I didn't, and people just came out and was like, hey, look, I drew Janix, and it's like, you know, it makes me happy. Some people have drawn Cruz too, but more people draw Janix, I guess because I talk about her more. The reason is because she's the current character that I'm playing with, so all my screenshots and everything are of her. So yeah. It's like, I feel kind of bad that I don't talk about Cruz a lot. Like, I RP on the Discord, I roleplay, and I roleplay as Janix more often than Cruz. Just because I like her more, to be honest. Like, I don't dislike Cruz. I think that Cruz has character. It's just that there's so much more. There are many more like dynamics and angles that I can tangle with the way that Janix works. You know, that she's damaged and stuff like that. So yeah, okay. So, what am I gonna do? It's like I'm trying to think. Order of operations. Okay. First things first. Speaking of fan art. I am a huge fan. There's a Xenoblade artist in the fandom who's really awesome. I think she's really cool. She's one of my favorites, and I like seeing her work. She's really awesome. Is what I'll say. Her handle is Love410S. I don't know if you've heard about her, but she does a lot of Xenoblade fan art. She's just as obsessed with Elma as I am, if not maybe more. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but she loves Elma. She draws a lot of Elma. And recently, a bunch of people in the Xenoblade fandom took part in a Secret Santa. And the Secret Santa was a bunch of fun. I took part in it. I was given some guy named Demsetri, and I drew Secret Santa for him. There's a link in the description or in a comment if you want to go see my picture. It's fun. I drew Harper, Elma, Cruz, Irina, and HB, and it's there. In Oblivia. It was a big commitment. I didn't need to do it that complex, but I wanted to. Anyway, long story is getting long. After I submitted it, the Secret Santa left my mind and I forgot about it. I forgot that because I took part in it, someone drew my name and was drawing something for me. Of all the people who could have drawn my name and drawn something for me, Love410S was the one who got my name. And she drew a wonderful, amazing drawing of Cruz, Janix, Elma, and Alexa. And I don't got words to describe it. I'll link that as well. You need to see it. Like, seriously, just take 5 seconds out of your time to give it a good once-over, because it's amazing. So, both those pieces are linked to, and definitely look at the Secret Santa I got, because it is amazing. I have it set as the background for my tablet. I have it set for the background on every computer that I use, and every time it comes up, I just stare at it and I'm happy. So, you know. Okay, and one last thing. So, not related to anything Xenoblade, but I got some more stuff here that is occupying a lot of my time. So, this is another reason. Well, actually, I guess this is related, because this is another reason that Mission and any other further updates to Scales in Love might be a lot further out than I'd like them to be, and it's because my time is going to be a little occupied. So, yeah. They're good games so far. I put 8 hours into this one, and I put a, I don't know, 6, I think, into this one? I could be wrong. The amazing thing is that both these games, I knew about this one, the fact that it's completely Japanese, and it only has English text, it wasn't dubbed. Same for this one, actually. I wasn't aware that this one was not dubbed either. They're both fun. They're both great. I have the slightest of nitpicks with Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but so far it's been a blast, so can't wait. I'm actually going to play it after I finish editing this, and maybe the timeline, I don't know. The timeline might be a little more complex than I'm giving it credit for. But yeah, so good games. Anyway, that is all. That is it. Hunky dory, we're all good. It is December 31st right now, so yeah. Happy New Year, everyone, or Happy Almost New Year. Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year when it does roll around. Hopefully you're doing something special for midnight, or if you're not, that's fine. It's gonna be a really great time next year. I think I have a lot more fan art planned, a lot more drawings planned to do for Xenoblade. I of course get to continue with Skeleton Love and hopefully finish it sometime next year. I get to play those games. I get to 100% the game again with Janix. I get to do a bunch of awesome stuff. So that's all in 2017, and I can't wait to do it. That'll be it, and hopefully you read 12 of Hello Xenos, and sorry, I didn't know how to get in, I didn't want to get in touch with you because I wanted you to come across it accidentally, but that's fine. For all intents and purposes, you thought the story was done, and that's fine. That's my own B for being so, what's the word? I don't know, for just being vague about whether it had ended at 11 or not. Anyway, that's everything. That's it for this year, and I'll see you all next year. Until then, bye!